Hello everybody, Martin Radner here from Radner Law Group, bringing you trial analysis. Today we're going to be discussing the YNW Melly retrial. Now, the reason why it's a retrial is because there was a trial already tried against Melly for first-degree murder, for murdering his two friends, and it resulted in a hung jury, and therefore a mistrial was declared, and the judge now, well, the prosecutor has the option to bring the charges again, which the prosecutor is doing in this case, and they're going to have another trial on the same charges of first-degree murder. So there's been a lot of motion practice, some other taking of discovery, other things that have been going on in this case. Nothing too exciting, but there was just something that happened in this case that was just unbelievable, earth-shattering stuff, and that's why we are bringing this to you today. But please, before we jump into it, please like and subscribe to this channel so we can continue keeping this channel growing. So what happened in this case? Well, what happened was that the defense team for Melly mentioned in the response to one of the motions that were filed, one of the many, many filings that were in this case, one of the things that they mentioned was that there has been a Brady violation. Now, what's a Brady violation? Well, Brady, what does Brady mean? Brady actually stands for a case, Brady versus Maryland. It's a case which stands for the proposition that the prosecutor the prosecutor is required to turn over evidence to the defense team, to the defendant or the defense team, that shows evidence of his innocence. That is what the prosecutor is required to do. Not only is the prosecutor required to turn over evidence which can help the defendant and prove his innocence, but also evidence that can impeach some of their witnesses. So that's what the prosecutor is required to do. They're required to do it timely. And in this case, one of the things that the defense team was arguing, is that there's been a Brady violation because this information, the prosecution and the prosecutor, the state attorney's office just sat on it. And they didn't provide it, and now even through the first trial, they didn't provide this information, and they just provided it now, before the second trial. So they're alleging a Brady violation. Now, what happens if there's a Brady violation? What should happen? Well, number one is what the defense team is seeking is a complete dismissal of the charges. Because it could be, and they have some case law citing to this, it could be that the prosecutorial misconduct was so egregious that dismissal of the charges is actually a remedy that could be sought. And that's one of the things that they're asking this judge. Now, is it realistically going to happen? No, probably not. It's not going to be, the judge is not going to dismiss this case right now. So what are the other remedies that are relevant for this case? Well, one of the things that they're arguing is that the prosecutor should be recused. And not only that, but the entire state general, they want to recuse the entire office from representing this case. That's one of the remedies that can be sought. So what they're trying to prove in this hearing is not just that the prosecutor, Christine Bradley, had this information and she just sat on it, but actually the entire office, the entire state attorney's office actually knew about it, and they all collectively sat on this information and did not provide this information. And if they all collectively together did not provide this information, and even the higher-ups knew about this, then they're trying to recuse the entire state attorney's office from representing this case, which would mean it would have to go to somewhere else. Now, obviously, for the defense team, they want that because they still have a right to a speedy trial, and they're very familiar with all the facts and all the evidence in this case. And if they get some newbie in this case, obviously they're going to have the advantage. So, but that is what they're asking. They're asking that the state attorney's office should be recused from trying this case. So that is what the hearing was about. The hearing was about, this occurred just very recently, and the Christine Bradley actually took the stand. So not only did Christine Bradley take the stand, but there was another prosecutor, which is really the one who started all this problem. So one of the three things that they allege was that there's obstruction of justice. This is in the defense. One of the defense's arguments, they allege that there's been obstruction of justice, there's been witness tampering, and there's misuse of public office. Those are the three allegations which are very serious, and the judge took it very seriously. If you did not see that hearing, take a look. The judge was very serious about this, and in fact, he was very upset because Christine Bradley was not even actually present initially for this motion hearing in the first place. And he was very upset about that. He says, I would think that she wants to be at this hearing. Doesn't she want to clear her name? Doesn't she want to stand behind, her credibility and her efficiency and her morality? Of course she should want to do that. So why isn't she here? He was very strong. And then they took a recess so that they can bring Christine Bradley there. Now, of course, She is busy. She has a lot of full docket of cases that she's prosecuting, probably other criminal cases, a lot of other charges, whatever that maybe she was in trial for or whatever it was. But they brought her back into this hearing because that's how serious these allegations are, that there's been a Brady violation. So what happened over here? What happened over here is that there was this Michelle Buttress, and I might be butchering her last name, but her name is Michelle Buttress, and she is been a 20-year prosecutor, and she works in this office. She works for the Public Corrections Unit, and she investigates allegations like witness tampering. And actually, that's why she was brought in on this case, because there's actually allegations of witness tampering against Melly. So the prosecutor's team, they were alleging that Jamel Demons, Melly, and his mother were engaging in witness tampering themselves. With who? With none other than Melly's ex-girlfriend, we all remember her, and her mother, who actually testified in the first case, was Felicia Holmes. So there was allegations that Melly and his mother were actually tampering with the witnesses, Felicia Holmes and her daughter, which was Melly's ex-girlfriend. So that's why she was initially brought into this case, to investigate that. Now, what she says, and this is her testimony, you can take a look. This is what she says. I'm going to try to summarize it very succinctly. So what she says is that she was investigating this tampering, and there was a meeting that she had with Melly's mother. So Melly's mother, they're having a meeting with her. She was going to give a statement. Her attorney was there at the same time, and it was a very small room. So she was there, Michelle was there, with Detective Moretti, with Melly's mother, and with Melly's mother's attorney. And initially there was a deputy in the room. Now, where it gets interesting is that Detective Moretti did not have jurisdiction in the place where they were meeting. Okay, now you cannot serve a search warrant unless you have jurisdiction in that area. So Detective Moretti really, technically, under the law, was not able to serve a search warrant in that room. Okay, but there is, under the law, a way that he can do it, and that is if there is somebody else who does have jurisdiction there, and you're kind of doing it under his watch. So if there's a deputy there that does have jurisdiction, and you're doing it under his watch, so then it would be a valid search warrant. Now, what happened here is that, according to Michelle, and this is what she testified in, she was in that room. They were talking. Melly's mother was giving a statement, and then the deputy left the room. Or the sergeant left the room, whoever did have jurisdiction left the room. And Moretti then, when this deputy and sergeant were out of the room, served this search warrant on Melly's mother. And the search warrant was for her cell phone. It was for her cell phone. Now, initially, she grabbed her cell phone, and she did not want to turn over her cell phone. And he was screaming at her, "Don't you dare turn it off, don't you turn it off, turn it over, you have to turn it over." And then he eventually grabbed her cell phone out of her hands. That's what happened. So what happened later is that after this whole occurrence, where she grabbed the phone, where Detective Moretti grabbed her phone out of her hand. Now, of course, this is after he gave her the search warrant for her phone, and the search warrant was approved by Michelle. So Michelle Buttress, if that's how you pronounce her name. So he did serve it, but he didn't really have jurisdiction. So according to Michelle, what happened is that Melly's mother left this interrogation room, or this room where she was giving a statement. Her attorney left, and then a deputy named Deputy Morrell, walked into the room. And when Deputy Morrell walked into the room, Moretti said to Deputy Morrell, "I need you to say that you were in here when I served this warrant," because Moretti knows himself that he doesn't have jurisdiction, and therefore technically the warrant was no good, and therefore any information that he finds in that phone is not going to be admissible into the trial. So he's got a real problem, because if they find some really good evidence on that phone, and they want to present that evidence in trial, they're not allowed to now, because it was illegally obtained. He was not allowed to give her that search warrant because there's no deputy in the room. So therefore, he's got to cover his tracks now. And therefore, he says, when the deputy walks into the room, Moretti says, I'm going to need you to say that you were in the room. So he's asking this deputy to lie for him. Now, this is all Michelle's testimony about what happened. And then as soon as that happened, Michelle left the room. The meeting was over, whatever it was, and she immediately told her supervisors that she is not working this case anymore. She has no interest in working with Moretti anymore because she sees that he is a liar, and he's asking other people to lie, and therefore she does not want to have anything to do with him, and nothing to do with him. She never wants to work with him again. She didn't actually work with him before. This is her first time that she was working with Moretti, and she wants nothing to do with him. So, and she's reporting this up the ranks. So this Michelle Butch, who's a 20-year prosecutor, she really knows what she's doing. She's been promoted all the way up, and she starts reporting about what happened. And she understands that there has to be something called a Brady notice. Now, what happens with a Brady notice is that once a prosecutor finds out information that could be helpful for the defendant, she has a requirement to file a notice. It's called a Bradley notice, to go and let the defendant know we found some information that could help your case, or we found some information that could be impeachment against one of our witnesses. Now, certainly in this situation, it's impeachment against Moretti, because you see that Moretti's a liar, and it's attacking the credibility of Moretti. Moretti was the lead detective on this case, and now Moretti is the reason why they're charging Melly with this first-degree murder. So if you're the defense and you can get up there to the jury and say, look, this guy is a liar, look what he did. So remember, if you remember from the first case, part of the very strong points, which I spoke about in one of my earlier videos on this case, is that one of the strong points that the defense was able to make in their closing argument, which could have been part of the reason for a mistrial, is that Moretti was also found to have done some other nefarious conduct in this case. And he was threatening witnesses, and he was threatening to deport certain people and throw them in jail. He was threatening people all over the place, which is, again, misconduct by the detective. And now you're going to find another instance where he's lying, straight out lying, in order to get her phone, in order to get that information into evidence. So this can be really, really strong for the defense team. Now, so there should be a requirement to file a Brady notice. So she starts letting everybody know that start letting the ranks know that you got to file a Brady notice now that Detective Moretti just asked this deputy to lie for him. So she starts telling this to her supervisors and the higher ups, and even to the state general himself, the state attorney general himself. So she keeps letting everybody know, and nothing is going on. Nothing is happening. And this happened way back in something like October 2022. So this is going way, way on back, and she's letting everybody know. She's saying, hey, you got to send out the Brady notice. You got to send out a Brady notice, and no one is doing anything. This is her testimony. And then finally she calls meetings, and she needs to have meetings with these people, and she just keeps following up, and nothing is being done. Finally, a Brady notice is sent out. Brady notice is sent out almost a year later. And then a correction, and the Brady notice itself says nothing about what she remembers. The Brady notice says something about a joke that was made between Moretti and this deputy Morel. This deputy Morel and Moretti. There was some joking going on, and then there was a correction about who made the jokes and when the jokes were made and things like that. But none of the information, still not to this day, according to Michelle, none of the actual real information about what happened in that room that Moretti asked the deputy Morel to lie for him, that was still not turned over to the defense. There's been no Brady notice for that. So that was her testimony, and it's just bombshelling. It's just earth-shattering information, especially when you're on the defense team and you hear about this, and they knew about it, months and months and months before the first trial, and you didn't even find out about it until after the first trial. We're a few weeks before the second trial, and all of a sudden you're finding out about this information. So you can understand how upset they are and why they're filing these motions to recuse the whole office, and everybody knew about this one big giant cover-up. So now what happened? So now that's why Christine Bradley had to take the stand, because she had to say, well, what information did she have about this, and what was going on with these Brady violations? Well, when she took the stand, essentially all she basically said was, look, I trusted Moretti. Well, I spoke to Moretti, I spoke to Deputy Morel. They told me, and it makes sense. They're trying to cover for each other. They don't want to be caught in a lie either. But she's saying, look, I heard what they said, and as soon as they told me whatever they told me, I put it in a Brady notice, and I let you guys know. So, did she know about this information earlier? She certainly did, and that's something that she comments on, and that it's a line of questioning that the Melly team questions her about. Like, hey, you knew about this information from October. What happened? Why did you do it? Now, if you watch this hearing, also just a side point, it's a little annoying because the judge does not allow them to get into the whys really too much, because then you're getting into something called a work product, and work product is not discoverable. So what her impressions were and why she did certain things, if that has anything to do with trial preparation, that's not discoverable. No one's allowed to know that information. That's it's protected. So only basically the facts about what happened can they talk about. They couldn't get into the why, which is why it's a little, it's hard, because you really want to know what happened over here. Why did you just send this information? But she can kind of just sit up there and not really answer the question, because the judge is not allowing that question to be asked. But she did absolutely testify that she did know about this information months and months and months before. Well, whatever she heard from Moretti and Deputy Morrell, she did hear something about that. She just didn't put it out into a Brady notice until much later, and that's going to be a big question. So that's essentially what her testimony was about. So the question really is going to be now is that is Christine Bradley now going to be a witness? Now, if Christine Bradley is going to be a witness, that's automatically going to make her that she's not able to represent the state in this case, because you cannot be a lawyer and a witness at the same time. There's specific rules of professional conduct that does not allow that. So that's part of what if you watch this hearing, one of the things that the judge is really struggling with is that how can we let Christine Bradley represent the state and bring this prosecution? Now, obviously, Christine Bradley is a very efficient and good attorney. If you saw the first trial, you would agree with me. She's very good at her job, and she's very familiar with this case. And the state wants her to try this case. They don't want to send it off to some other person who doesn't really know the case so well. And even somebody who does know the case so well may not be as an effective trial attorney as Christine. So the judge, it sounds like to me that the judge is going to say Christine Bradley cannot try this case. That's what it seems like to me, because the defense now listed Christine Bradley as a witness, because now it's going to help them to impeach Detective Moretti, because they're going to have Michelle come up and testify about what she heard happen. Then they're going to have Christine come up and testify what she heard from Detective Moretti, and it's really going to paint Moretti in a really, really bad light. And again, this is really going to be some good, strong fuel for the defense team in this retrial, that they're going to say, look, this guy, Detective Brady, just cannot be trusted. He's threatening witnesses. He's lying all over the place. He's lying to get this search warrant done. It's just, yeah. So it's really, really interesting stuff over here, really bombshelling stuff. And we'll see what the judge eventually does with this thing. But I think, and I would, if I had to guess, I would say he's not going to allow Christine Bradley to try the case. Is he going to allow the state attorney's office to try the case? Probably. He's not going to buy the whole conspiracy, even though there's been some pretty strong evidence, pretty strong testimony by Michelle Buttress that there was this big, colossal cover-up. But something tells me that he's going to allow the state attorney's office to still try the case. He's just going to remove Christine Bradley off of the case, which again is going to make it for very interesting. Whether he's going to allow now them to have to adjourn the trial now a little bit more, because this new attorney is going to have to get caught up to speed and things like that. That might happen also, but we will see as these things develop. But this is very interesting stuff going on with the Melly trial. That's it for now. Please again like and subscribe, and we will bring you a trial analysis. I'm looking forward to next time.